tech support. Yes, live is sir.
Okay, can we start, Siddharth?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Saab, and a very good evening to all doctors. Thank you very much for joining our today's webinar. Our endeavor is to spread awareness about the rabies. As you know, this webinar is all about our rabies vaccine. So, which is a rabies which is fatal, but we can avoid it once apparently vaccinated. So, this is an innovative from Cadla Pharmaceuticals. So, the innovation to serve the society and humankind. And today is our topic about
Hello, sir.
rabies.
Sorry, sir, but we are now live.
Okay, no
Okay.
issue.
Okay.
The topic of our webinar is our novel 3-dose G protein vaccine, ultimate key for compliance. So, dear doctors, Thrabies is the world's first 3-dose anti-rabies vaccine, and with a great pride, we would like to inform you that the Thrabies has successfully completed 1 year. So, we have just 1 year before we have launched this an innovative product. So, we have just completed 1 year to launch with more than 40K animal bites being vaccinated, and 100% compliance was recorded, and no case of RDS, ARDS was registered. So, with this, my honor to introduce you to a speaker today is our webinar, Dr. Rauf Ahmed, which is a physician. So, it is a well-known, renowned physician from our Srinagar. So, not taking your much time, I directly request Dr. Rauf Saab to initiate the talk, and later we will have question answer sessions also. Dr. Rauf Saab.
Good evening and Assalamu alaikum to everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Right. So today's CME is regarding the rabies, and before we start this, is presentation visible on this? Is slideshow open?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, the screen is visible to everyone. Please, I hope so.
I won't be sharing this. I won't be sharing the screen. Someone from the Cadla side will share. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm sharing the screen. I'm sitting on the back end of the screen, so I will be controlling the screen.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So, how many of us have heard the name of Edward Jenner? So, anything special about Edward Jenner? I will say one thing before I ask anyone else, because this will be a discussion, and I assure you that after this half an hour of interaction come CME, all of you will feel it very beneficial, not only for yourselves, but for the general public at large. So Edward Jenner is considered to be the single person who saved the maximum lives in human history. So anything special about Edward Jenner? Anyone? Any of the medical friends can say a few things? Anyone? Let me see. I think we have plenty of people who have joined. So Edward Jenner, basically one of the very important history in medical sciences, history of the smallpox, which wiped out around 10 to 20% of population of this 17th century. And Edward Jenner came to an observation that the females who were involved in getting milk from the cows were somehow resistant to the smallpox. They were not getting it, and even if they were getting it, they were getting a milder illness, and the mortality was less. Once he investigated it more, he reached to the conclusion that the people who are involved in milking the cows, they get an illness very much similar to smallpox, known as cowpox. And because of that, getting the cowpox, they somehow get resistant or immune to the effects of smallpox. And then, very brave scientist of his time, what he did, he got some material from the cowpox lesions of a lady and introduced it into the skin of another person, and then deliberately put some smallpox infected material into the other arm of the person. And to the surprise of people around, he found that smallpox didn't affect the person at all. So Edward Jenner is known as the father of immunology, because he started the vaccination era in whole world. And after his this work, the vaccine was formed for smallpox, and smallpox was completely eradicated from the world, thus saving millions and millions of lives. So why I am mentioning Edward Jenner at present is because we are talking about a subject which is involved, which involves the concept of this immunology, the basic concept of immunology, and its application is as vaccination. All of us know that rabies is one of the threatening disease, because as said, it is 100% fatal. Though we can't say 100%, we can say 99.999%, because there have been 2-3 cases reported in history who somehow survived rabies, thus avoiding us of using the 100% term. But of course, it is almost 100%, because 99.99% means 100%. So when it is some 100% fatal disease of this severity, and rabies is also considered to be the most dreadful disease. If any one of you ever come to see a patient in the terminal stage of rabies, you will see why it is called the most dreadful disease. I once saw a patient of rabies, and believe me, I couldn't see the person. That was the impact of the illness on the person. That was the miserable condition of that person. And one more thing specific about rabies is it is one of the diseases which is very much underreported. Underreported means if there are 100 cases, we only come across say 5-10 cases. The rest of the cases get unreported. There are many reasons for that, and but the reality is that rabies is there around. Rabies is killing many people, and we need to be very much cautious about it. Regarding rabies, if you talk about rabies, how we can prevent ourselves from rabies, there are many ways. One is the legislative way. Majority of us want the legislator to control it, but we can't do much about that, and there are some hiccups or issues with that, and maybe the people involved in that are working on that. But as of now, legislative decisions are not helping us in preventing people from rabies. Let us talk about Kashmir. And if you want to see the number or magnitude of the dog bite cases in Kashmir, or more specifically in Srinagar, you can have a visit whenever you go to SMHS. You have a visit to the Block F ground floor anti-rabies clinic. What is the rush over there from the dog bite cases, especially early morning, late evenings, and other times as well. And the people who have pets, then the cows, the cats, the cows, their licks, their scratches, and their bites. And all of them need the vaccination, because all of them possess the risk of putting the patient's life at risk of getting the rabies. After legislative measures, the other measure of preventing rabies, and rather dog bite and further rabies, is taking some preventive measures. Like whenever somebody moves out early in the mornings, one needs to be a bit more cautious. Move along with your friend, take a hard stick with you, avoid the places where the waste is there, where the dogs are there. So, and whenever you are moving early morning or late evening to some vehicle, don't take the bike. Better is to take the vehicle or a car. And don't put your kids outside alone without supervision of elders. So these are some measures wherein we can prevent ourselves from the animal bites and further from the infection of rabies. The third way and the most efficacious in present circumstances of preventing ourselves from rabies is rabies vaccination. Rabies vaccination is done in many ways. One is pre-exposure, then re-exposure, but the most commonly used pattern is post-exposure prophylaxis. Post-exposure prophylaxis means once someone gets bitten by a dog or a cat or a cow or gets a scratch or gets exposed to the risk of rabies, before the rabies sets in, we provide the vaccination to the person because we are providing the vaccination post-exposure of the animal's bite. So we call it post-exposure prophylaxis. And it has been time proven that it is a very efficacious way of preventing rabies in majority of people. Why we need to prevent rabies is see the magnitude or the burden of rabies that globally 59,000 human deaths annually occur, and highest is in India. India had 20,000 human deaths a year from rabies, accounting for 60% of the rabies deaths in Asia. 91% deaths in India occurred in rural areas. So again, a very important finding, and wondering why it is happening like that, that can be discussed. Then next, can we go to the next slide, please? Every 9 minutes, we get a bite from a person is bitten by an animal. The issue is non-compliance. Today we are talking about non-compliance. Why non-compliance is important is that because, as I already said, the rabies vaccination, post-exposure vaccination, it has been proved over the decades that it is very efficacious and it is saving lives at a big magnitude. Over the past centuries, 2 centuries rather, different types of rabies vaccines have been evolved and evolving again and again. And currently the cell culture vaccines are being used because they are having the least chances of any adverse event following immunization, and their efficacy is best. But the issue is why we have been getting the cell culture vaccines, because previous vaccines which were inactivated vaccines, they had some issues like inconsistency in potency, stability, availability, short supplies, adverse events. But these cell culture vaccines are very much safe, very safe, having least chances of adverse events following immunization, and more importantly, very efficacious. And different regimes have been evolved over past 2 centuries. Initially, there were too many injections, but of course, the more the number of injections, less the chances of compliance. And the less the compliance, less the efficacy. That is the importance of why I was telling you that the non-compliance is an issue. Because even if the rabies vaccine schedule is very much efficacious, very safe, but if the patients don't comply to it, the full schedule, it won't be highly efficacious because you are providing half of the vaccination schedule. So compliance is very important, and for that purpose, the number of doses is very important, and the cost as well. The compliant is one who received the full course of anti-rabies vaccine. That is the scheduled doses of ARV on the recommended dates. Delayed compliant is who completed the scheduled dose of ARV within 60 days, but deviated from the scheduled regime. And dropout or non-compliant is one who had taken at least 1 dose of ARV after animal bite, but not completed all the scheduled doses. So out of these 3, of course, the compliant people can have the best outcome because of the more efficacy of the vaccine. and they drop out or non-compliant are exposed to the risk of rabies. Next, please. Rabies post-exposure prophylaxis in routine practice in view of the new current Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and World Health Organization recommendations. Retrospective analysis done at this total 110 patients received. Basically, this is a debatable question that whether we should go with a routine rabies pre-exposure vaccination, but post-exposure vaccination, it has been recommended by WHO and by all the countries, including India, that in every case of an animal bite, we need to go for the vaccination if the bite is of class 2nd and class 3rd. Before starting the regimes or talking about the vaccination schedules, we need to know in which cases the vaccination should be given and in which cases we have to avoid the vaccination or it is not needed. The classification of the animal bites divides it into 3 classes: class 1, 2, and 3. Class 1 is when there is a lick on the intact skin. So when there is a lick on the intact skin, that is considered to be class 1, and only the management part is washing the site with running tape water and soap for around 10 to 15 minutes and nothing to be done. Then class 2nd or category 2nd animal bite or exposure is and the class 2nd is once there is scratch in the skin, but it has not pierced the complete dermis and there is no bleeding. And this category 2nd or class 2nd wounds, they need post-exposure prophylaxis with the vaccines. And third is that once there is exposure of the wound to complete piercing of the dermis where the blood comes out, or even a single drop of blood comes out, it will be category 3 animal bite. And in case of category 3 animal bites, in addition to rabies vaccine, we need to give rabies immunoglobulin. The usual one in practice is the equine one, though human variant is also used at times, but mostly equine is used. Equine rabies immunoglobulin. But the washing of the wound site or exposure site with running tape water and soap remains for 10 to 15 minutes is to be done in all the categories, whether it is category 1, 2, or 3. So category 1 is only washing it tape water and soap. Category 2 is washing it tape water and soap and vaccination, and category 3 is washing with soap and water, vaccination, and rabies immunoglobulin. Can we go to the next? Then different types of rabies vaccines have been, schedules have been in practice over past few decades, and 2 important or 2 commonly used regimes are, one is intramuscular regime of 1 ml where we have to give 5 doses, and the other one is intradermal regime where we have to give 2 doses at one sitting and we have to give only at 4 occasions. 0.1 ml in one deltoid intradermal and 0.1 ml in other deltoid intradermal, and we have to give it on 0, 3, 7, and 28 day on 28th day. While as intramuscular regime, we need to give 5 doses. Both are equally efficacious. Both have the same antibody titer in future, and both are equally safe. But of course, the number of doses of 5 for intramuscular and 4 for intradermal, the compliance part, especially the 4th dose or 5th dose, it remains an issue at times, especially in the rural setup. Can we go to the next? Actually, this is a mention of a study. I am not going to the details of the study here, but the crux I am going to convey to you. And the crux is that now the new regime, which has been initiated and rather approved in adults beyond 18 years and is under the stage 3 clinical trial for people less than 18 years is Thrabies. Thrabies means we have to give only 3 doses. And clinical trials have proved it to be equally efficacious as the other 2 regimes. The intradermal regime as well as the intramuscular regime, it is equally efficacious with the same amount of antibody titers and same amount of prevention from the rabies. Next. Can we go to the next, please? Again, mention 50% were non-compliant to them. Now the question here is, and it is very common sense, that if we have 3 regimes, one has 4 doses, one has 5 doses, and the other has 3 doses, and all the 3 are having the same amount of efficacy, it is quite obvious that the regime which has less number of doses is going to be more compliant. People will be more compliant to it because the cost will be less, and more importantly, the duration of the therapy is less and the number of injections is less, so chances of non-compliance are less. And once the overall the non-compliance rate is less, in practical scenarios, the efficiency or effectiveness of this vaccine is more as compared to the vaccine schedules which we are already using. Efficacy and effectiveness are 2 different terms, where efficacy is considered to be the desired result, the percentage of the desired result, how much successful the desired result, how much is the proportion of the desired result in the ideal conditions. Ideal conditions means if we are giving the full course of each regime, that is 5 doses of intramuscular, 4 doses of intradermal, or 3 doses of this rabies. But effectiveness is in real life experiences. You may not have the complete, the best, what we can say, conditions, and all people may not go with the all the scheduled doses. So once the rabies doses are taken, most of the people take all the 3 doses, while as in rest of the regimes, the majority of people, especially from the rural setup, they don't take the 3 doses. The recommended 5 doses and 4 doses, thereby decreasing the compliance and decreasing the efficacy of the vaccine as well. Next, please. So this is the compliance to anti-rabies vaccine. So as we can see the day 0, day 3, 7, 14, 28. Of course, day 0 will be 100%. Then only we are going to count them. Then day 3 is 88%. Then day 7 is 85%. Day 14, 70%, and day 28, 60%. So what we have been talking for past 15 minutes is that the more the number of doses, the less the compliance rate for the completion of the therapy. And of course, the regime which has less number of doses, like the Thrabies, which has only 3 doses and are equally efficacious to the 5 doses of or 4 doses of the other vaccination schedules, in real life scenario, it will be having more efficacy and will prevent more lives than others. Next, please. So these are the other parameters which we say that the more the number of doses interfere with your school timings, then distance of the hospital is also important in compliance, then cost incurred. Regarding the cost, I will mention here the cost is minimum in case of intradermal vaccines. But there is an issue in Kashmir. I have seen it that other than the main tertiary care centers in Srinagar, rest of the centers, they use the intramuscular regime only. Why they prefer intramuscular regime? There are many reasons, and one of the reasons is that they don't get that number of patients. Even if they go with the intradermal regime, one vaccine vial is used for around 4 patients, so thereby decreasing the cost of vaccination. But if they won't get that number of patients, then the cost of vaccination rather increases instead of decreasing. So the conclusion is that in case of tertiary care setup, or we can say the SMHS hospital or the Sikim's Medical College, where there a good number of patients come for the vaccination, and where the cold chain maintenance is good, where the people are they're aware about the schedules and the intradermal regimes, and they can do the intradermal vaccination, we should advise, advocate, or prefer that intradermal regime. While as in rest of the districts where the number of vaccinations needed or the number of animal bite cases is less, and we should prefer rabies or other regimes. These things, on one side, we are helping the patients as well as decreasing the increasing the efficacy of the vaccination and decreasing the cost of vaccination. Can we go to the next? Again, this slide should have been at the beginning, that nervous tissue and cell culture vaccines, the difference between the two. Next, please. Meeting the unmet medical need is 3 novel. Basically, there are few issues with rabies vaccination, rather the dog bite or animal animal scratches. That where we most of the times get some confusion, and I think that part can be cleared in the discussion part. In this scenario, we can do the vaccination, and which scenario we have to go with the immunoglobulin, or which scenario we need not to go for re-exposure, revaccination schedules, etc. Here the first vaccine is 3 doses, and then better compliance due to easy to flow regime and less visits. Of course, it is quite obvious. Convenience is ready to use, no reconstruction. Okay, that's fine. Then first protein subunit vaccine. That is true, but that is not going to be beneficial for patients. The benefit for the patients is 3-dose regime, and less cost to the patients, and prepared by VLP platform technology. The novel 3-recombinant rabies G protein vaccine, known as the Thrabies. I think we should use it in our setup, especially the rural setup. Can we go to the next, please?
Siddharthji, next slide, please.
देखो मैं एक बोलता हूँ सोच ले बात मामा को जाना है जरूरी ठीक है अब आप अपने के साथ आओगे कि यहाँ इसको सुनने भी जरूरी जा रहा है excuse me please tell all please unmute your mic.
I believe this is the mechanism of this G protein, where the vaccination, wherein we have been able to make a 3-dose vaccination which is sufficient enough to generate antibody response for a long period of time. Next, please. Protection data. These are the studies where the we have compared the 3-dose vaccine of 10 microgram and 50 microgram. Okay, so this is the Rabipur vaccine of this. Of course, this we have already discussed this thing, that the crux of all this is that the efficacy of 3-dose rabies vaccine is more or less same as 4-dose intradermal vaccine and 5-dose intramuscular vaccine, which we were already using in the past. Next, please. Safety and immunogenicity of a novel 3-dose recombinant non-nanoparticle rabies G protein vaccine administered as simulated post-exposure immunization and a randomized comparator controlled multicentric phase 3. Okay, it is already in, I think the phase 3 clinical trials under 18 years are going on in many centers, SMHS being one of the centers for that. But more than 18 years of age, people are already receiving it, okay, and has been approved for that. Next, please. Evaluate immunogenicity and safety of rabies G protein vaccine administered as a stimulated. This is another randomized control trial So wherein we have been able to see that we have used double the number in case of this 3 dose and single number, that won't make much difference. Can we go to the next slide, please? The results were consistent across different age groups and different genders. So gender or age group is not a factor which can influence the efficacy of this vaccination. And you can see that seroconversion on day 14, day 42, it is more or less same. So 97.7% and 99.2% doesn't make much difference. Same with 98.69 and 100%. Again, not that much different if we see the p-values as well. So overall, we can say that rabies vaccine is equally efficacious. All these studies, they reach to the conclusion that there is no added side effect and the efficacy is more or less same at different follow-ups. Next, please. Novel 3-dose was non-inferior. This is the inference. That's what I have been telling. This was non-inferior to reference vaccine and led as less adverse effects compared to reference because we give less number of doses. So definitely, whether it is a mild adverse effect or a major, when we give lesser number of doses, the dose-related effects will be, side effects will be less. And novel 3-dose was found to be safe and immunogenic and was comparable to 5 doses of WHO pre-qualified vaccine, that is intramuscular regime. Next, please. Okay, this is the Golden Globe Tigers Award, which the Kerala people have won for this. That is great. And another award, India Pharma. Okay, thank you so much. At the last, I will say just 2 things rather. One, that this rabies vaccine I have seen in the field, especially in the rural setup, there is a confusion which regime we should go with. In SMHS, we prefer the intradermal regime because it decreases the cost to the hospitals, though because it is free, and if patient has to purchase it, then to the cost to the patient as well. Overall, the cost is less. But once we go to the periphery, if we send the patient to SMHS, the start of vaccination is delayed, and that is very important factor in the immunogenicity, that after the exposure, the earlier you start the vaccination, the better it is for the patient, the better immune response. So in the periphery, our first aim is to get the patient should get the vaccination at the earliest. So, and at times we can't afford, it is evening, we can't afford to make the patient wait till morning to go SMHS. Then second thing is that if we give an intramuscular vaccine in the periphery and then ask the patient, okay, now you go to the SMHS the next day because you might get free vaccination over there, then the issue is that we can't change the regime. If you start with the intramuscular, we have to continue with the intramuscular. If we start with intradermal, we have to continue with that regime. So for that purpose, that option is again not a good one for the patient, because then the patient has to purchase 5 doses of vaccine from the market over a period of time. And then the third point is the compliance. If the number of doses is more, the compliance is less. So I believe that in rural setup, rabies is very much beneficial to the patients because you don't need to think much about then SMHS, because only 3 doses are to be taken and 3 doses compliance is better. And as we saw from the research part as well, the randomized trials have been done. There is no added risk or no added adverse events, rather the adverse effects were lesser in frequency. So I think that is all we have done. Then the next part can be taken in the question part. If there is any issue, we can discuss over that. Bilal sir.
Sir. So thank you very much, sir. So now, if any question is, so Dr. Saab is here, so he can give you the answer of that question.
I think there are some questions.
So
Sir, what is the
Dr. Saab, unmute yourself. Talib Saab, unmute yourself.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, please.
Myself, Siddharth, actually, I'm marketing team of the Cadila Pharmaceuticals and directed from a HO of the Cadila Pharmaceuticals. Actually, one was very informative and a great session from Dr. Rauf Ahmed. So I have a question, sir. Like, what kind of patients, like animal bite victim, you have came across apart from the dog bite? Because the rabies is basically found, mostly occurred with the dog bite patient, dog bites. Like 95% of the rabies occurred with the dog bites. Apart from any dog bite patient, you have any came across with?
Yes, though dog bites are the most common types of exposures we come across in case of suspected rabies. But very important is cat scratches. Here I would say that scratches also been taken as a potential source of rabies, because many animals have a habit of putting their claws in their mouths, and the claws are also having the part of their saliva. So if the animal is having the rabies virus in their saliva, it can well be in their claws as well. So any scratch is also taken as a suspected exposure. So cat scratches is very common nowadays because people do have cats as their pets. Then there are the sheep bites, people dealing with sheep in their homes. Then the cow bites are there. And though the cow bite has less chance of having rabies than dog bite, but in practical life, it has more chances. Why? Because cows usually don't bite. Cows bite when they are rabid most of the times. So we need to take cow bites or sheep bites very seriously. Then there are bites by the wild animals. Like I do remember some 4 years before, there was a there were three people who had been attacked by a wild, I think wild leopard. It was leopard or something, or jackal. I don't remember exactly. And some of them had not gone for rabies immunoglobulin, and wounds were very deep, and one of them had died. And then few were very much panic what we are going to do, because we have not taken the immunoglobulin at the beginning. So the wild animals, jackals are there, the leopards are there, and tigers, we need to go with that.
Thank you very much, doctor. Another question, doctor. Like, suppose if the person is get bitten by the pet animal, and the pet animal is also get vaccinated, so is it necessary to take the vaccine?
See, again, basically, you have to choose between the two things. One, your pet has been vaccinated, but getting vaccinated and being immune, these are two different things. We expect that someone who has been vaccinated, that person will be immune, but we expect it. It will be true in majority of cases, say 90% cases or 95% cases. But to be doubly sure or 100% sure, we need to do one thing. Either one option with us is get the antibody titer of the pet. If the antibody titer of the pet is well within the range, then we can avoid the vaccination. But if you cannot go with the antibody titer of the pet, then you should go for the vaccination.
Dr. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Dr. I'm having a question. If any pregnant lady will get a dog bite, either he's having a first or second or third trimester, will she go for a vaccination or not?
Exactly. If vaccination is, if it is second category, second or third, she has to go for the vaccination.
So there will not affect on this embryo, or he's having the status in the same.
Even if it has an effect on the embryo, that is the second question. If you have two things simultaneously, one is a grave concern, one is of lesser concern, we need to take care of the grave concern. Rabies,
Exactly,
we
sir.
have said it is 100% fatal. If a pregnant lady gets bitten by a dog, first and foremost thing is we have to prevent the rabies. Like a pregnant lady, if she has convulsions, we know all the anticonvulsants have some bad effects upon the fetus. But skipping the anticonvulsants means we can risk the life of the pregnant lady. So pregnant ladies, even though it is proven that these anticonvulsants have some bad effect on the fetus, still we give anticonvulsants during pregnancy when indicated. But in case of rabies, we have not proved that rabies vaccine is going to have any bad effect on the embryo or on the fetus. But even if it has, still we have to go. So no need to think about that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Siddharth sir, now we should conclude. I think there is.
Yes, yes, definitely we should conclude. And
Th-
it was a very nice and very interactive session by Dr. Rauf Ahmed. And I hope it's a eye-opening for every one of us that every dog bite victim should go for vaccine. The initiative a 3-dose vaccine, that is rabies, rather than going on to the conventional 5-dose vaccine which is available right now. And of course, the patient like rabies has a very, in the upcoming years, in the successful launch of the 1 year last year, we have launched the rabies, and it has gained the very good audience support, as well as the patients and the doctor support for the therapies. And I hope everyone will go for the therapies. And thank you so much, Dr. Rauf Ahmed, for the informative talk, and we truly appreciate your efforts. Last but not the least, we would like to inform that in the presentation you've seen that Indian Pharma, as well as Golden Globe Tiger Award. So thank you very much, sir. It was a very nice and very interactive session from your side. And I hope it will be a learning for everyone, for all the audience who are present over here. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kerala team, for inviting me, for giving me a chance to talk about rabies and vaccination, and looking forward for future CMEs as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thanks for all the audience. Thanks. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
you.